Brasile per Bremer, gol! Pirlo, la conclusione in rete! Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, gol! Alex, la compagna di Boga, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Hello and welcome everybody to episode 345 of the Turin Giants Podcast. My name is Zach, and of course I'm joined by my friend Frederic after the 3-0 defeat against Atalanta in the Coppa. As many of you longtime listeners of Turin Giants will know, after a defeat, we sort of do our therapy session, processing what happened and how we feel about it. Frederic, are you ready to lay down on the soft, velvety couch and talk about your feelings today after this defeat?
I think we'll have to. The defeat hit me a bit harder than I expected it to because I was counting on it, but we'll get into that later on.
I think you and I picked a defeat. Again, and Kevin, Farhad, other members of our team, and Beppe all picked a victory, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think either of us are surprised by this, but the defeat on paper does look quite bad, 3-0. It is a competition that we are out of, maybe the likeliest competition where we would have won a trophy this year. And we're going to take some time today to talk about the following matters. First, the starting 11, because it was different from what was in a lot of the papers. The tactics deployed on the pitch, certainly for the first 75 minutes before everything went to shit. Missed chances. You can't talk about this game without talking about missed opportunities, missed chances, and a lack of execution in the final third. We're going to look at some players, notably Jeremy Boga's a substitution, whether we blame Bremer for two of those goals, as well as Locatelli's influence on the game and in set pieces. And then we're going to finish with maybe the opinion I see differing the most and amongst the chat of whether we care, whether we really care. I mean, nobody wants to lose, but whether we are are we gonna just brush this game off and move on, or whether this is something that's going to mar this team as a sort of a mark against them in the coming days and weeks. So that's what the schedule looks like today. Before we get into it, we got to do our housekeeping. This is a live show, so everybody in chat, there's many of you already. Large Boo, Azamandius, Del Piero, Osama, Mitch, Unholy Fun, Arjadata, scrolling up because I don't want Luca, because I don't want to miss anybody, Ahmad, EA, Dut, Peepo, Itzik. Wow, there's a lot of y'all. Thank you for participating. Everyone else watching, feel free to participate. These therapy sessions are better when you do. For those listening after the fact on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, we appreciate you. Put your thoughts in the comments. And as always, folks, liking, subscribe, following, 5-starring, and the like is immensely important to us. And if you want to support us, you can go to turninggiants.com, look at our hoodies, our t-shirts, like the Scoop shirt that I'm wearing right now, and some other things. We have a lot of fun with those. We enjoy wearing them, as you can see, and that is one way. If you'd like to support us, you can. Frederic, is there anything you'd like to add to our housekeeping matters before we jump into the game?
No, I'd say if you can buy it, it helps us tremendously. We're not paid. We need to get some funds in to keep the lights on in this place. Figure of speech, of course. And it would help us immensely, and would also be super cool to see people wearing art and dance designs. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, you get it posted on social media. We'll all share. We all we view you as sort of a Juve part of our Juve family, and so we want to be as engaged with y'all as possible. Well, speaking of engagement, let's get into it. I'm going to start with the starting 11. I think it's important to note that when I made my predictions in advance of yesterday's episode with Beppe, with the understanding that we'd see starts from players like Cabal and Coop Miners against an Atalanta side that was going to play their maybe strongest 11. We saw that from Atalanta, but we did not see that from Juventus. I took it as a clear signal, Frederic, that Spalletti in starting Locatelli and starting sort of our normal, a relatively normal defense. You just insert Gatti, but no Cabal, as a desire to win this game by putting out players that we thought he was going to rest. Is that what you interpreted it as?
Well, I have two views on that. The first is indeed that he wanted to win this game because it's still a cup, and Juventus supporters have been really negative about Italia for a number of years now because, well, we have a lot of them. I think 15 or something, and it became, winning it became a habit. Now that the habit is gone, I think we all feel the hunger to get one in. Sadly, it will not happen this year. But the other thing is, I think that Spalletti was genuinely upset by the Monaco performance. You could tell from his body language and whatever that he didn't like it one bit. And I think he kind of lost a bit of faith in that rotating scheme that he had in mind, because I think that he just knows that if he rotates 70% of the team, we lose 70% of our strength as well. And so I think he wasn't as comfortable in doing that, which is, in hindsight, not the best decision. Is given the outcome, I mean.
Yeah, given the outcome, you would have started Odzic and Zagrova. You would start of everybody. But at the same time, for much of the game, that 3-0, it kind of misrepresents the flow, or at least the influence that Juventus had, because I'll claim here that for 75 minutes, Juventus was the better team. They created a lot more chances, they were a lot more dangerous, but for the penalty, and we'll talk about that in just a second, Atalanta offered almost nothing going forward. And I think actually with the players that Spalletti chose, he was also extremely intelligent with the tactics that he had. Um, and I think this was purposeful and different than what we normally have seen, Frederic. I kind of interpreted it, and this is maybe an oversimplification, as a direct, focused 4-0-6 almost, where you would have Locatelli, and if not Locatelli, also Thuram drop in the defensive line, and everyone else push up, and you saw line-breaking passes try to unlock guys like Cambiasso and McKennie, who would rotate around David. What was your take of, at least for that first half, if not first 75 minutes, our tactical approach to this game? And do you agree with me that it was effective and kind of unique?
I agree with you, but I also think that the way that Spalletti wanted to play was a bit demanding in terms of physicality. So
I'll
I'm
agree with
not
that.
sure if it's the right choice by squeezing everything out of the players who already seemed tired. And I think it was visible on the pitch as well, even in the first half, because I think the first half we played very well, but you could just sense that McKennie was tired, Bremer was tired. Thuram wasn't in that, in crescendo line that we saw the last couple of days, even games, even though we played a decent game, but you could sense there was some fatigue there, and having instilling that formation in that manner and demanding a lot of the players would be fine if we came out with a win. But then in hindsight, with the games that we have coming, and I'm not sure. I just hope he has something worked out with the whole technical stuff to get some recuperation training in and to get the muscles a bit relaxed and whatever, because it's gonna weigh on you.
And we're going to talk about individual players later, but like at least from a first half perspective, I kind of disagree with Bremer. I think he looked to relish the physical battle with Scamacca. He won a lot of balls. The penalty, he was in the right place at the right time, except his hand was in the wrong place at the right time. So I think Bremer, like from a first half perspective, we can argue late in the game, like that second ball that sort of skipped past Bremer and Kalulu. You could argue both of them could have done better. Both of them were maybe leggy at that point, but the game was kind of gone with the subs. So I don't necessarily want to go on Bremer. I think McKennie, I have to agree with you. His touch seemed to be more open today, where he just was getting opportunities and he wasn't able to link up with the players around him in a way that you have seen him in his current run of form. And I kind of noted down, I wonder why that was, whether you think mentally he prioritized the game, or do you think he was just tired? Because he ended up playing the full 90, right? Do you think it was exhaustion, or do you think maybe he wasn't as engaged in this as a Coppa game?
No, I think it was just fatigue. I think it was just fatigue because you could see that last game too in the final 15 to 20 minutes, I feel. But it's normal. It's normal. I mean, Kalulu played almost every game. It's normal that if you're not injured, that something goes miss. And fatigue in that respect is normal given our calendar, because the calendar is crazy. Like, I don't know who they put in charge of handling those, but I have to say, like, I want Juventus to play every day, like every tifoso wants to. But this is getting out of hand, especially when your core squad is not as wide as you hope them to be. February, March, April are those months that'll wreak havoc on you, especially knowing that you had the Club World Cup in the summer. You start in the middle of August again with Serie A and everything involved, and it's heavy. So I'm not going to shift the blame on them, because it's just a normal physiological reaction to playing this many games.
Do you agree with me, though? I think you maybe have dodged my question. Do you believe that for 75 minutes we were the much better team and we played pretty good football?
I think we did the first half. Afterwards, even at kickoff, you could see that we were a bit disorganized. That little spark we had in the first half wasn't there anymore. It was a bit more sloppy, messy, chaotic, gritty. While in the first half, I think the fact that we played structurally very well, fast, and with a certain game plan at hand, I think that helped us in playing that well. And in the second half, I think we threw it all overboard, and then second half to me was a miss in all, especially the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I'll take a second. I want to shout out everyone in the chat. Again, we are live. Y'all are active. Sky, welcome. Got her friends to watch Juve for the first time this game, and that is unfortunate. Randy, Dan, some other folks in here. Again, thank you so much for your contribution. I think Pawistawiarski, I probably butchered that, but I wanted to take a stab. Welcome as well. Thanks for your participation, and please give your comments. I'm reviewing them while Frederic is talking, and we want your comments to add to our discussion. So thank you for that. Let's fast forward a little bit to the chances in this game, because in the first half, when we talk about how good we were in the first half, I clocked at least 5 legitimate scoring opportunities for Juventus. Kind of going in reverse order, you had the corner where it went to Jonathan David, who gave it to Mac right at the top of the 6, and he kind of stumbled and put it right into a defender. 4 minutes before that, in the 29th, you had Bremer's header just wide open header, just wide. You go down, rewind further to the 20th minute. You had 2 Chico chances. Chico one-on-one with the keeper, where he puts it right into Carnesecchi. And then within 30 seconds after that, you have Chico off the bar, which really kind of sums up our criticisms of him, of his just lack of clinicality. And that's not a word, but I'm sticking to it. And then you can even count maybe the first 2 minutes of the game where you had Thuram 8 seconds in, not able to redirect that ball on goal, and Locatelli at the top of the box. So you have all these chances. And then Ederson innocuously pokes a ball at the corner of the box into nobody. It grazes the trailing hand of Bremer, who's kind of up in the air. And by the letter of the law, that's a penalty, right? Are you going into halftime pissed off at the team for these wasted chances, or are you going in saying, guys, we've been the better team? Let's go, let's build on that and come out in the second half with the right attitude.
If I was Spalletti, I'd say let's pick it up where we left off. I'm pretty sure that's the speech he gave as well, but there's a very big difference in between hearing it and performing it on the pitch, actually. And I think you could also tell the last 10 minutes of the first half, the wind was knocked out of our sails a bit. And maybe this is the main gripe with this Juventus. If we don't score in the first 60 minutes, we never seem to score. And it's just difficult to win a game when I mean, the last few games have been good, and when we start scoring early, we usually score more than one goal, which is very good. But to break these games open or come back from a setback seems difficult for these guys.
I might tweak your statement, because it's not. I don't know if it's for the first 60 minutes. For me, my take is that whenever we score or we're trying to score, why does it seem so tough for us? There's no goals where you're like, wow, that was butter. That was easy. That was wonderful. Every goal seems like it's really tough and fought for, and everything has to go right. Like Scamacca, the penalty. I mean, that was, nobody complained, nobody even noticed, except for the VAR guy. Not saying that it shouldn't have been a penalty, because I think by the letter out it is, but like, that's a gift. Even our penalties are
Hard
tough, because we when we score half of them, and I think is this what Spalletti was getting at when he said he needed a striker, and that we need to be someone more predictable, or is it that the striker thing's more of a different characteristics thing? These people need to step up. Guys like Chico, who had 2 chances, needs to step up. McKennie, who had not only the one here, but also I think 2 in the second half, needs to step up. Bremer and Kelly's headers just wide that are wide open need to step up. What's your take? Is it the striker thing, or is it more that these guys need to step up?
It's a combination of both, but once you have a striker in, like a real physical number 9, it gets easier for the midfield to scoot over into a more offensive role, because what David does is great, and David played, to me, a good game, but he's not that David of League A where he can poach the goals, because the space is so confined in Serie A as a whole, even in Europe. So that takes away 40% of what David could do when we saw him at Lille. And I think that's what Spalletti's asking. He wants somebody who can be a bit more dangerous, especially out of nothing. And that's maybe something that we need to focus on. You can always feel a Juventus goal in the air, which is good, because it means that we play dominantly, that we get some chances. But it takes, like you said, some effort to get the ball in. It's never like, oh, something happens or we're being dominated and we get like a standard situation, a free kick in, and out of nowhere, our big, tall number 9 heads the ball in, and we poach that goal. And I think that is needed. You cannot win every game by dominating. You need those gritty, dirty, undeserved wins at times, and you can only do that if you have somebody who can, who needs half a chance to score a goal. And I think that's the gripe, because David needs a lot of chances to score. Conceição needs a lot of even Yildiz, needs at times a lot of opportunities or shots on goal, or they get a goal in, which is not a bad thing. But in games like these, if you have somebody who can just, get a ball in from half a chance, or a ball that just falls right out of the air.
Yeah. I mean, Mitch says here, and I have it on the screen, that if we had Scamacca on our team, he would have had a hat trick. And I think one notable thing, like if you compare Scamacca, 6'5" striker, to say Vlahovic, if we had Vlahovic in today's game, I don't think he would have scored a hat trick. I think one notable difference of Scamacca and a guy like Vlahovic is Scamacca is actually pretty good in possession. He can play with his back to goal. He can do the build-up play, but he's also the physical presence that David isn't. So he's more of a complete striker in that regard. And I think that's maybe more so what Spalletti was talking about, and getting in a guy like Mateta and Nesri. I think both of them are sort of a poor man's complete striker, to be honest. But I can't disagree with what Mitch said here, considering the characteristics of the aforementioned strikers.
Yeah, and the thing is, because when David plays good, we say he plays good. We come out and say it. There's no hate towards David. We were a bit negative about him in the beginning, but the fact of the matter is, David has to execute and perform the roles of three strikers.
Yeah,
He needs
that's
somebody.
tough.
He needs to be the guy you can pivot around, who can maintain possession while the midfielders move into attack. He needs to be the guy with clinical finishing. And they also demand of him that he has to be more physical or win more aerial duels, which is never going to happen because
Well, that's not going to happen. But hold on, let me push back. I mean, we're talking a lot about David, and we're comparing him to Scamacca and stuff. But let's look at it. I got my notepad here, tons of notes about the game, and we see McKennie, who whiffs on the Boga cross. I'm going reverse chronological order. You have Kelly wide open header missed. You have David giving it to McKennie, who turns and shoot, his back to goal, turns and snap shots it wide of the goal. Should have done better. You have Jonathan David and McKennie again at the top of the 6 in the 33rd. Again, Bremer heading wide. The two Chico chances in the first of the 2 minutes. Of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 legitimate scoring chances. Any of those could have easily been in the net. 0 of them were Jonathan David's fault. And you might say, and I guess the question is, are you saying that's the problem? Jonathan David needs to be on the end of these. Jonathan David should have had 3 assists. It's sort of my argument. Like, these guys need to step up. There's no excuse that Kelly and Bremer can't head the ball into the net, considering how open they were. McKennie, in his form, having 3 chances, should have scored on one of them easily. Chico needs to be more clinical. Of course, he hasn't been, and he wasn't again today. So is this a story of Jonathan David not being the striker, or the team not finishing?
The team not fit. That's what I mean, because Jonathan David performs or does what he can do, but he can be both. He can be the guy who turns in assist after assist and scores himself. I mean, it's one or the other. So in along that line of the build-up and the eventual finishing, something goes wrong, and there's where you need that physical number 9, especially with a player like David, because physical number 9 paired with David, in my opinion, if you play a 4-4-2, not this hybrid version, but the basic 4-4-2, I think that would do wonders, especially if you see the run of form Locatelli's having. Having somebody who can head crosses in as well as makes you offensively 20% better. So we're going to revert back to our scoop episode where we were a bit critical about that, but I think it turns out that we were right, that this is something, maybe the first priority that needs to be dealt with in the summer.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and this is kind of a crazy stat that I looked at it. Jonathan David actually has a higher goal contribution per 90 than Yildiz does, which after the first bit of his season was surprising to me. I think the story of that is how even our best players are inefficient. Like, we need to be scoring as a team. Or just we're going to have games like today. We're going to have games like Cagliari. We're going to have games like Lecce.
The same can be said, for Yildiz as well. He's a very good player, but if he's not in the game, he's not in the game. There's that level of consistency that we as a team lack, which ultimately, to me, comes down to quality, because Yildiz is a young player, still in development. He's going to learn how to dose his movements,
Mhm.
his trickery, his shooting momentum, his
Mhm.
time management. That's just a learning curve.
Mhm.
But everything else comes down to basic quality. And you have a lot of players in other teams who have certain qualities that you as a coach can take advantage of. And now it's a bit of a makeshift thing because Spalletti didn't choose the players, didn't have a preparation with them. He
Mhm.
was handed them at the end of October and see what you can do. And then everybody, including Spalletti, hopes for those small tweaks in January, especially because you're at that point you were still in three competitions. And we're still kind of disappointed in that respect.
Yeah. Let's well, real quick. I kind of assume I'll kind of put out my conclusion. Do you have any objection or issue with the penalty against Bremer?
In the sense, the rules were followed by the letter, but that doesn't make them correct because,
Well, yeah, I mean, what I meant
yeah,
to say,
I
what I
mean,
meant to say is from the letter of the law. Do we have any objection
I don't
to?
know if they would have gave us that penalty, to be honest. Like that's something that's still in the back of my mind. I don't know if it was the other way around, if we would receive it. That's an entire different matter. But according to the letter of law, it was a penalty. But what I can't stand is people that make these rules, and I've played a bit of football myself. You move your arms to keep your balance,
Yeah,
especially when running. And you could see that Bremer was in a running movement at that time.
yeah,
And
and
I
it
don't
was a
know how you
gray. It was the
guys would.
lightest grays. I mean, it did touch. It seemed clear from my feed that it touched, and even nobody objected to it. Even the commentator was like, "This is one of those situations where it makes you rethink the rule." But
Yeah,
the rule, whether we like the rule or not, it was followed, right?
it was followed. And it's, shame on us as well, because prior to that, we had 4 or 5 open chances.
Well, I mean, that's what
If
we
you
were talking
score,
about. Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
score half of them, then it's just, you go in half time with a 2-1 lead, and it's a completely different game. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is the thing that Spalletti's harping on about. Like
Mhm.
when these things happen, and they do happen, we're basically screwed. We have no alternative or no other option to turn these games around then. And David is a real good player. Coming back to David here, but it's very easy as a defender at times to defend against David because he'll fall back into that not final third of the pitch. So if
I
you
disagree
just,
with you. Finish your point, then I'm going to disagree with you.
in terms of him being dangerous in the box, he has a lot of good qualities, but he's not that type of player because he needs to execute a lot of different things, and he chooses the thing that helps the team most now is holding up the ball, getting those fast short passes in. But you as a defender, trying to get him away from the goal, that task for you as a defender is made a lot more easier because he tends to do that himself already naturally in order to help the team. So it's no surprise that he can pop up in the box and poach a goal because he's working to get the players around him to move and to find space for
Mhm.
them. If you then at the end point have those players who fail in concluding scoring a goal, then you're very neutral as a team. Then you're very toothless.
I mean, I agree with your conclusion, but the whole point and why I disagreed with your beginning statement was that David should have, or very easily could have, or should have had 3 assists today. His movement freed up other people in the box to finish those chances. Now, you might say, well, he's the number 9. He's ultimately accountable for that. But that's not how this team is built.
No, no, no,
You
no,
see the
no.
movement, you see the movement of Chico, McKennie, and David for that first half where we played really, really well. David was creating space with his movement. And so it's that movement dropping back, pulling defenders
Yeah,
out of place that allows those overlapping runs and put Chico in a position to score, put McKennie in position to score 2-3 times. So, and
but
when they
that's
don't, you might say, well, David needs to do better. I think like it goes back to you're
no.
asking David to do 3 different roles. I mean, at some point we have to accept that
It's
he's equal parts distributor and poacher. And today he
it's
was more distributor.
exactly it's exactly that what I mean. So we are over expecting things of David while we're overlooking the majority of faults that the other people in the team
Hmm.
put on the pitch. This
Hmm.
is because if you try to prevent David from scoring, you can do that more easily as a defender, as opposed to a really target man, a real number 9, a real poacher who's more physical, who's more present in the box. That's not David's type of play. So as a defender, in that aspect, you have an easier job at hand. However, if you say, and rightfully so, that he could have gotten 3 assists today, that's also true. But if the guy at the end of the pass doesn't finish off the chance, then you're back at square one. And that's our biggest issue. That's our biggest issue. We're always getting back to that square one, and we never seem to make that final push or having that momentum, which enables us to take a lead and build on that. If we do, we do it well. If we get the lead, we play the lead out handsomely. But it's getting to that lead that's always so tiring and so forced in a sense. I feel.
Can we talk about Colo's question real quick? We love Colo. Thanks for joining, everyone. If for some reason you don't subscribe to his wonderful content, please do so. He also designed this shirt, so thanks, Dan.
And his OnlyFans is awesome.
His OnlyFans is fantastic. He's a handsome bastard. It's expensive, but it's worth it. We're just starting shit about Dan, and he's not here to defend himself. You kind of alluded to the answer to this question, but if Dusan gets back to fitness, what do you think about maybe a 4-2-4? Maybe it lines up like a 4-2-3-1 with David at the 10, but a 4-2-4 with Dusan and David. Do you think that works?
On paper, yes, but I can't see Dusan playing a game for us anymore.
I think it would be risky for him to come back from injury and then risk injury again. I think you might want to say he needs to prove that he can bang in goals. I think it'd be risky, but I'm going to take the opposing side. Say he does come back. He wants to show that he's still got it. He can bang in goals. Dusan said all along that he prefers a strike partner. That was a big issue with him and the Serbian national team versus Juventus. And because he has no touch, he's got cinder blocks for feet, and he's not really very good in the air, he needs somebody near him to do all of the work. And David is exactly that player. So I think that if we do see David and Dusan together, they could really be an effective strike partner.
I think so too. Maybe not Vlahovic, but the type of player that Vlahovic is kind of a poacher, even though he has the physicality, but he doesn't know what to do with it, because he'll never win an aerial duel if he's clinging on for dear life in that respect. But alongside David, who does the dirty work for him and makes room for Vlahovic in order to receive that pass. And that's what Vlahovic does best. Without stopping the ball, without hesitating, just shoot the ball in the damn net. And you can see by the goals he scored, it's always that one-touch finishing move that he has, where he runs into space, he gets that deep through ball in, and he finishes it off. And that's also on us, because we have utilized Vlahovic wrong. I'm not saying Vlahovic is a top-class striker, but the way Tudor and Mota used him.
Well, he was not. He was absolutely not a Mota striker. Like I cannot think of a more opposite striker to Xerxes than Dusan. The only similarity is that they're both tall. Spalletti, I don't think he's a Spalletti striker either, because Osimhen, when you look at the work he would put in at Napoli, or you look at, say, Icardi at Inter, I mean, the work that they put in, he's not capable of. I think the only one he could really have jived with was Tudor, and Tudor really tried at both last year and the beginning of this one to get him online. It just wasn't working. But we don't need to spend too much time about Dusan Vlahovic, a still injured player.
It'll be March before end of March, I think, before he'll regain fitness. So
and we will be talking about individual. I see a lot of comments about like Boga, and I know we talked a lot about David, but other players who played today like Chico and Cambiasso and so forth. We will kind of do a review of some of the notable players and performances in just a second. We're kind of working our way through the match. I want to move to the second half. Again, we saw 3 missed chances. All 3 of them coincided to the 64th minute of Jeremy Boga. not maybe going too in depth on his performance because we'll talk about that in a second, but it was notable that after his 64-minute sub, you had a Boga-led attack in the 67th where David feeds McKennie. He turns to shoot, shoots it wide. You have the Boga to Cambiaso to what that is that play. You had the Boga cross to Kelly. Kelly heads it wide, and then you had the Boga cross to McKennie, who whiffs in the 73rd minute. This to me, and you said we kind of died in the second half, but at this time, really the only chance still, we're 73rd minute, still the only chance that Atalanta had is that penalty, and we're now on our 8th. At that point, I know XG's really not a great metric. I don't really like it, but our XG was almost double theirs at this point. We were like 1.8. They were at 1.0 ish, mostly due to the penalty. I saw it as still a proactive substitution to not only get Boga some game time, but still with the intent that we can win this game. We're only down 1-0. We're playing better. We're creating chances. Yeah. Or did you see us starting to get leggy in the signs of the inevitable 3-0 defeat? Did you see that at this point in the game?
No, but I think what I meant to say was we were a lot weaker as a team in the second half, whereas in the first half we were a powerhouse. Everybody was moving forward. Everybody was filling in the blanks, was doing their job. Whereas now, when Boga came in, the attacks we had were Boga oriented. Whereas in the first half, danger came kind of from everywhere, and that's what I meant. It was not a team performance in that sense. So you kind of felt like, okay, we need Boga to do something. But then in my mind, automatically the question arises from, what if we don't get anything done by Boga? What's going to happen then? Because there wasn't anybody else that was, demanding or pushing forward to get some attacking football.
Yeah.
In. So
at that point, Chico was a passenger in the second half. Yeah, so you're right. It was just Boga. But to your point, Boga does come on and has an instant impact. We get those chances, we don't score. Now, before we get into the 74-minute sub, the which is the moment where the game really changes, in my opinion. And I want to talk to you about those subs and what's going through Spalletti's mindset at that. There's two things I want to address. One, Pinu's question here. Was this Boga's game, or was today just adrenaline? First game for Juventus, first game returning to his old stomping ground at Atalanta. My take is this is how Jeremy Boga plays. For my memory serves correct from Sassuolo and from Atalanta. This is his game. He is very Jagrova and Chico-like, just from the left wing, causing chaos. Unlike them, he's 4 or 7 years older. He's more mature. He understands situations more, and he's able to affect the game in ways that these other players haven't, because they haven't been playing in Italy as long. That was my take on this question, Frederic.
Perfect. And I might add, when Boga played in Italy, you could see him progressing season after season. He got that maturity in, he got that vision in, he got that sense of teamwork in as well, because in the beginning he was very individual, scissors and show and whatever, kind of the Zagrova type. And then he gradually, fitted into the player that he is now. And I like that, because that's one of the things I really despise about Chico. Chico's been with us for a year and a half now. There's not an ounce of improvement in his game.
Yeah,
whereas
it's a regression. Like Boga, regression, right? Yeah, he's not even producing goals and assists.
So I kind of like that, and this was typical Boga, coming in, creating chaos with a clear overview. He knows what he's doing, and getting those types of moments in where he's linking up with a lot of players, even though they only train for like 1 or 2 sessions, to me is promising, because Boga is somebody, and not a lot of people know that, but Boga actually prefers to play on the right side at times, depending on the formation. He said that in an interview somewhere. He said, I don't mind playing on the right and providing assists or throwing crosses in. So in that respect, he could be an alternative to Chico or Jagrova as well. I don't know if Spalletti will see it the same way, and he'll evaluate it in his way, but I'm not going to say that I'm impressed, but I like what I saw from Boga.
Well, let's put it this way. If we buy Boga, his purchase price is about 16% of Chico's, and his wages are half for a player of a similar quality but more maturity.
And more output.
Well, both of them, and Jagrova too, all three of them struggle to be consistent with goal scoring opportunities, goal contributions, I should say, in my opinion.
I felt when I look back at Boga back in the day, when he has certain players around him, he performs arguably better. His
Well,
last year in
that's
Atalanta.
everybody. That's everybody.
No, but I mean the way that fits his playing style. I'm not gonna say that he scores or assists a lot more, but he's always a threat. Whereas now Chico is just not a threat anymore. Like the first thing
Yeah.
you need to do in order to become a threat, there's where Chico completely misses the ball already. So for me, it's an upgrade. It's
I'll
an
say
upgrade, but
I'll say this to Mitch. Mitch says, "Call him. We only saw 20 minutes." I mean, not really. I mean, today, yes, but I mean, I'm talking. We saw him seize, 5 years in Serie A, Sassuolo, and Atalanta. I mean, there's a 29-year-old player. You have, a body of work to pull from. I mean, this Boga's at 29. His game is his game. We've seen it a lot, and that's what I'm pulling from when I, in part when I describe his game in its contribution today. The financial aspect is just objective, like from a cost comparison.
but
It's not
even
even
that
close.
is positive. It's positive.
Mhm.
Like it just fits. You don't expect for Boga to alter the Juventus future and be the guy that scores 20 goals and 10 assists a year, but that's not why you got him. You got him to be dangerous. You brought him to bring a bit of chaos in. You brought
Mhm.
him to have Yildiz rest a bit, and he could be a valid alternative, especially in games like these. Because next season, when you go out to play Cagliari, but you have Real Madrid after
Yeah.
2 days, maybe in the Champions League, then it makes sense to start a Boga instead of a Yildiz.
If he was
So
match fit, I would have expected him to start today. Exactly to your point. Let's
yeah,
move on. The other thing I want to discuss before we get to the subs in the 74th minute is that in the 58th minute, Cambiaso got a loving hug in the box, and there were penalty shouts.
was
Frederic.
that step on foot incident? I think.
No. He was in the box. He was addressed it. I
but
think he collected it off his head there. The defender was on him like this. The question is, in large boo, and I try to scroll up because he had asked us to talk explicitly about it. And I'm not seeing it right now. I'll just seeing Colo laughing at our comment on his OnlyFans. So sorry, I can't find the comment. But large boo asked about that incident. Was that a penalty to you?
Not to me. And this is something that Spalletti warned him that I know for sure about the way that he plays, because often at times he pulls a quadrado and just gets on the ground even though there's little to no contact and stays rolling on the floor for a minute and a half. He needs to stop doing that. You know that you're small. You know that when a large 6-foot defender bumps into you, you'll probably fly over the ad boards. That's the nature of a game. That's not going to change. So what you need to do is be quicker than him
Mm-hmm.
and get the ball past him and make that run for it, and then you can be dangerous. And then if a defender comes after you and makes a foul or something that looks like a foul at full velocity, you'll have more chance of winning those fouls. But
Yeah.
the way he's playing now with that stop start, not sure what to do, in the end, it's not going to help you. You need to have that breakaway action where you can either be dangerous by pulling a sprint or getting past that defender and feeding it into the box, or you get fouled and you take advantage of that foul. But what he's doing now is of no use. And
He just tried to back
Conceição,
down. He just tried to back down a much larger man. Ahmad, Alex, Mitch say no pen. You say no pen. I say no pen. The defender was very handsy. But unless there's a actual pulling or pushing motion, I don't think I've ever seen that called.
It was too light, and if you
yeah.
spend like the majority of the game already with every duel that you encounter by laying on the grass, then of course the ref's not going to give it to you, and that's the type of maturity and common sense that Chico doesn't have, that Cambiaso doesn't have. These are the things the details that sometimes decide a winner or loss.
Yeah. All right. So we addressed those two. I really want your opinion on this. 74th minute. We're down 1-0. We had just created 3 chances in 4 minutes through Jeremy Boga, and Spalletti's choice to bring us back is to sub off David and Locatelli. Now, just would you put Locatelli and David as one of our top? We'll talk top performers later, but would you generally put them as one of our two of our better performers today?
Yeah, that's the guys
he takes off them, and he puts on Coop, and he puts on he gives Holm a debut. 2 questions. First, is that, and this one's a quick one, is that a sub that sparks joy in terms of getting back into the game? And relatedly, is this where everything broke? Because, and just for the record, we had with the Boga for Gotti sub, we went to a 4-2-3-1 from a 3-4-2-1 where we started the game. This sub reverted us to a 3-4-2-1 with Holm at right wing back and McKennie as our center forward. Take it away, Frederic.
I think that Spalletti, with all his experience, at that point realized we're not going through. We're not going. So I'm going to damage control the shit out of this game. I'm going to get my 2 most determinating players out and hope, even though it's an idle hope, but hope that the guys that I bring in can do something. If not, meh. I think Spalletti at that time knew that, we had these opportunities. We didn't score. Doesn't look like we're going to score either. And at that point, I might add, Atalanta was still running. Like you saw De Ketelaere and that left wing back going up and down like crazy. They weren't tired. So Spalletti probably already knew that we're going to run into a counter at some point and it's going to be done. So I think this was purely damage control. Even though he might have expected something, because you put Holm in because it's against his ex-team as well, so you're hoping for that extra spark, that extra motivation.
Coop too.
Yeah, Koopman is the same, even though result is what it is. But you kind of hope. I think Spalletti has done everything he can do with a certain type of player like Koopmeiners, and all he can do now is pray and hope for that switch. He did everything he can do. It's up to the player, and he'll give him a few minutes here and there in the hopes of him getting back to his former self. We all know that's not going to happen, but he has the responsibility to do so because it's an investment worth 60 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he wants to not be blamed at the end for, hey, you didn't let Koopmeiners play, you didn't give him a chance. How can we see if he'll get better if he doesn't get to play? I mean, it's not easy for Spalletti either, right? You have to manage. You have to manage group expectations, management's expectations, your own expectations, because believe it or not, on the training field, consistently, Koopmeiners is the best player we have. I'll die on this hill. I've seen it. I've heard it. It's what he does in training is amazing. And once he enters the pitch on game day, he short circuits. Is that Spalletti's fault? No. Is that Koop's fault? Maybe not even his fault.
Well, it's partially his fault. I mean, whether it's a mental block or something, I mean, he's the one playing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I know, but it's not something, like you break your leg, you know where the issue is, you fix your leg, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
This is something completely different and deeper. But there comes a point where you have to say enough is enough.
Yeah. And I think we all agree on Coop, right? Done.
Yeah, and I hope Spalletti agrees now too, and that he, to management
He
says, "Look,
does. He does.
I
He
did
does.
what I can do. I can't perform miracles. I'm like so."
Well, he knows because once he switched to a back four, Frederic, what have we seen Coop on the pitch other than garbage minutes?
No,
No. He's got
no.
no place on this
I,
team
today
with a
was
4-4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1.
today was throwing in the towel, in my
And
opinion.
that leads me to two more questions for you. The first is about Coop. You knew he was going to be abused by the fans, and he was. Why, if you're going to concede the game, why bother even subjecting him? Put Moretti in for 15 minutes. That's the first question. And then secondly, if you're throwing in the towel, but still want to roll the dice and hope, why do you go strikerless and sub Openda on 6 minutes later? Why not sub Openda on right then and there?
I think he didn't want to bring a Panda on anyway. I really think that, he had. I'm not gonna say he lost the plot, but after that Koopmeiners thing, I think he had something like, I'm going to have to bring Openda in because believe it or not, if you, as a player, you get these evaluation moments as well from your coach, from your
Mm-hmm.
management, from whatever. And I think this is Spalletti's way of saying, hey, you might not have played like 10 games in a row, but you had the opportunities. And this is very important in convincing a player to eventually leave or accept a certain transfer. Because if you're a Panda and you're making what he's making, and you're in your first season, and somebody comes knocking at your door from Juventus management in July and says, "Well, Lois, we'd like to ask you to leave. Fenerbahce wants you. I don't know." And you're like, "No, I'm good. Didn't get that many chances either, so I think it's not right for me to leave." And you'll have that weight in your books.
Mm-hmm.
By doing this, you could say, "Oh, dear lowest weight, I have your minutes here. I even have the images here. Look what a disgrace you've been. There's no future for you here." And then maybe as a player, you start thinking and say, "Yeah, well, maybe the fit isn't there, the click isn't there. Maybe it's better for me to pack up and go." So it's a valuable argument. And to us as basic supporters, it's of no use because you see Openda running there like a headless chicken and you're like, what the hell is happening? But it could prove to be a valuable weapon in a transfer market situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of understand that. I also understand the Coop thing because Coop minus is lost even on the bench. You knew that. You knew that he was going to get scolded by the fans. But, at that point, you're down 1-0. Imagine Coop getting a 30-yard screamer and giving us the 1-all draw in his ex stadium. That would do wonders for him as well. And then maybe you spark that click, that switch in his head. So for me, it was 80% damage control, 20% inshallah. We'll see what happens. But at least they can't blame me or say they didn't play.
From what I've seen from chat, and I'm moving on. So, needless to say, the subs blow up our team, fiddling with the tactics. They get two goals. We lose 3-0. I want to move into some individual players. Looking at the chat, I think most people want to talk Bremer. I want to talk Loca. People also want us to talk Chico. So, is there any other player you want to that we haven't already talked about? Like David, I want to talk about. We already kind of talked about him. Boga, we kind of already talked about him. Any other player that we kind of missed that you want to spend specific time on?
My man Lloyd.
Okay, so we're going to spend time on Lloyd. All right. So 4 names. We're going to spend some time on them. For the rest of the players, I'm going to go through them, and I want you to give me one word. This is the rule. Okay, one word, Frederic. Just one word. Sum up their game performance for the rest, and then we'll talk about these 4 guys, and then we'll kind of round out. Okay?
Yep.
So, okay, we'll start with some of the ones we already talked about. One word, David.
Useful.
Boga.
Spark.
Okay, now we're going to go back to our. We're going to go kind of start with our starting 11, starting with the goalkeeper, Perrine.
Dog shit.
Kalulu.
Tired.
Gatti.
Overrated.
Thuram.
Tired.
McKennie.
Tired.
Cambiaso. I'll have you know it was his pass that led to this counterattack for the second goal.
I know. Cambiaso was Cambiaso. Dog shit is one word.
No, it is one word.
Is it not?
We'll consider it one. Coop.
Hopeless.
Holm.
Meh.
Openda.
Disappointing.
Jagrova.
Bland.
All right, that's one word's associations or ratings with Frederic. I think the one that I might disagree with is Holm. It's TBD. He got had like 2 touches in a game that was gone. So we'll see on him. I don't want to be mad. I mean,
it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just not enough to evaluate him on. So
Large Boo objects to dog shit being accepted. I apologize. I also agree with Mitch that Cambiaso was hardly the problem today, though he did have his normal brain fart moment leading to that second goal. All right, Frederic, who may or may not be frozen on my screen.
I'm looking at something. Dog shit is one word.
Okay. I thought he was looking
Just
at Colo's. I thought he was looking at Colo's OnlyFans again.
Not yet. I'll save that for later.
Later, okay. Well, it is late for you. It's midnight.
It's midnight, but
let's talk about the positive players first, because I think both of us are going to give Loca and Kelly a good review for their game performance. I'll take Locatelli because I like him and we know how you feel about him. You take Lloyd Kelly because we know how you feel about him.
Oh, we'll switch because everybody keeps saying that I'm a Loca hater. I'm not a Loca hater.
Okay, I like this. All right. Rain praise on Il Capitano.
Loca did what he's been doing for the last couple of months now, and that's playing faster, playing with overview, and playing vertically. And this is or was my biggest gripe with him, because I saw the potential in Locatelli as a midfielder, and he was holding himself back from getting to that level. So that's why I was so harsh on Locatelli. It's not that I don't like him. It's not that I can't stand his hair or whatever. I think, my opinion, that now we see the true Locatelli thanks to Spalletti. I think Locatelli is a very emotional player. I think he's somebody, if something is not going well within the team or within the squad, that he's somebody that suffers from that. And now with Spalletti, he found a bit of more consistency, in terms that he has a coach who builds on him, who talks with him a lot, and who helps him to make that switch from being the gray mouse that he was in our midfield to dictating play. And then I love Locatelli. I love what he's doing right now. Even today, he was always with that one-touch pass, always had that clear overview. Of course, there's some things that he misjudges or times poorly, as every other player does. But now we see him at 90% of his capabilities, and then he's a very good midfielder. Is he a world-class midfielder? No. Will he ever be one? No. But he's a very good one. A very good one. And
I think that with his qualities, his defense today was stellar. In the right place at the right time, so many good tackles. I think with a better team around him to take advantage of his qualities, you could see him in the conversation of world class. I think he's got mediocre around him too often for us to really see that in display, because what he does well is spoiled. Like today, Chico and McKennie on the receiving end of so many long balls that they just were incapable of executing on. So we'll see. Hopefully we can improve and we can see this version of Loca get better. Lloyd Kelly, though, you and I think agreed after game 3 of this season, maybe it was game 2, where we both said that Lloyd Kelly is going to get comeback player of the season.
Yep.
We lauded Lloyd's off-season work, his mentality, and now we sit here on Ronaldo, Carlo Tevez, my father's birthday in February, and we say that
Congrats.
that Lloyd Kelly is maybe our best, if not definitely our best defender. I think I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Mitch says that a couple games in a row he's been better than Bremer, and his consistent run of consistent form never seems to end. Long may it continue. Knocking on wood.
I'd like to also add one thing, and this is something that really I love in a defender. You see Kelly, no matter the result, no matter what the scoreboard says or the game flow that's being dictated, first minute, 90th minute, the passion, the mentality is still the same. It doesn't change. Like there's never a moment where he says like, "Oh, we're up 3-0. I'm a chill. Let him." No, doesn't happen. We're down 3-0. He's still scrambling for balls against the Ketelar and still trying. So this is something I love, that never die attitude. And if we had several key players with that mentality, we would be competing for Scudetto right now. Give me a Lloyd Kelly in midfield and give me a Lloyd Kelly as a forward in all aspects, and ratioed, if you know what I mean.
I think you see that. I think you see that in Kalulu. I think you see that in Bremer. Now we're going to talk about Bremer in a second. We think we see that in Locatelli. I think you see that in Yildiz, though Yildiz still has that immaturity where he floats in and out of games. You see that in McKennie. You honestly see that in David, like him or not. I think we have a core of players that present that level of focus, intensity, and a level of quality that is useful to this team. I think we just need to fill in the rest of those pieces, the left back, notably the position, the right winger, notably another position where we're just devoid of somebody who's going to have that influence. But
We need
absent them, you have guys like Lloyd Kelly who are becoming a pillar in our team of consistency. And some people might say, you keep saying the same refrain, but I think with how bad he was last year, and I will heavily object to anyone saying that he was anything other than bad last year. He was horrible. But to see him be able to make the switch mentally and physically to be what he is this year is just it needs to be praised, because it's so different. It's so much more improved, and he deserves all the praise coming his way.
There is a nice backstory I have, if we have the time for that, about Kelly.
All right. Well, let's hit it quick because I want to hear it, but let's be quick about it.
Short story. When he spent the whole summer in Turin, as we know, and his wife or girlfriend at the time flew in, flew out. Some days she stayed, some days she didn't. And what he did every 2 days, he got a taxi from his residence. I don't know where he lives. And he said, drop me somewhere in the center. Just drop me off somewhere in the center. I'll find my way back. So he navigated through Turin, got to know Turin, the people, the stores, or where you eat, or what you do basically as a tourist. But he really spent his time to discover the city, the little trades, the parts of the city, which I like, because they're, at the end of the day, they're millionaires. They could say, hey, my girlfriend's coming, we're gonna do something nice, we're just gonna hit Louis Vuitton and then get back and then have a Michelin star meal. But it wasn't like that. He spent his time like navigating the city. And I think that's awesome, because with that low confidence and that amount of horrible games you had, to still have that intensity, desire to stay there and get to know the city, speaks volumes. I just wanted to put that out there.
It does. It absolutely does. And it's really a study in psychology. I mean, we were talking about Coop earlier. What a stark difference in mentality between Coop miners who came to us on the top of the world and Kelly, who came to us and was 2 words apparently, dog shit. And now we see where they they see where they are today. It's really cool to see from a Kelly perspective. Let's get to I don't know if we need to say much about Chico. Is it really just more of the same, Frederic? Is it really just more of the same? Is not very good in between the boxes and is unlike last year, simply not converting his chances. Is that it?
I think it's time to say goodbye.
He just joined us. Just talk like Openda and Chico, both 40 million purchases. Both, I think they're 5th and 6th or 4th and 5th highest earners on our team. Pre Yildiz extension. Like these are super high earning players.
So they're
super
a problem.
Expensive player. Yeah, but how do you get rid of them?
Well, that's up to Kamoli. I don't get paid to get rid of those players or bring players in, but I hope he can.
Well, Kamoli better be a genie because I don't know how else you're going to make it happen.
If Spalletti can't revitalize a player in the time that he had, and I said the same about Jagrova. I predicted Jagrova should be match fit in February, end of January. I'd sell them both, Mitch. Mitch
immediately
sell Chico before Jagrova. I'd do a package deal, like take them all 50, take them both 50 million. We'll figure out the balance sheet later and get
each
one decent
individually 30 million or 2 for 50.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know what needs to happen, but something's got to give because this is that weight financially, but also for the team because you could see the team losing confidence in Chico. Last year, you had that spark that Chico brought, and they would. And I know this because if you have somebody you know that gets in the game and he can provide something, you automatically revert to him in terms of passing or relying on him. They don't do that anymore because they know that he doesn't produce anything. It's to no avail.
And then the second half today, they stopped passing to him.
Yeah,
you saw him making runs. They looked up their head. No.
You said there was a still image where we missed that chance in the first half, and Locatelli was going like
the one-on-one with the keeper or the one off the bar.
I think the one-on-one with the keeper. It could be the other one, but because I saw the replay and I was in the car and my uncle was driving, but that's another man. But Locatelli was like, again with this shit. Like they had enough because you as a team you try to create the best opportunities you have in order to dominate or dictate a game. And then if the outcome always stays the same with the same player, at the end you'll say, well, screw this. We're not gonna try that again because it serves no purpose in the end. And rightfully so, I might add.
Yeah. All right. That's enough about Chico. Though I think the one thing about the selling Chico versus Jagrova, Chico's cost, both in his transfer fee and his wages, are much higher than Jagrova. Jagrova was a cheap transfer. His wages are not that high. He's a guy that he was a bet in the first place because of his injury. He's a guy that's not going to hurt if he lingers. Not to say that I want him to, but from a financial standpoint, he ain't going to hurt you. Chico, if everyone's looking at Chico and saying this is the 5th highest earner on your team, and he's producing that, I should be paid more? That creates a problem for your wage structure.
Yeah, and as opposed to Chico, if Jagrova gets match fit at the end of the season or whenever, and he plays 3 very good games where he scores or hands out assists, and you want to sell him, you'll find somebody to buy him for 30 to 40 million easily. With Chico, I don't know. Everywhere he's gone, he's failed. I mean, he wasn't even dominant at Ajax in the Eredivisie. I saw him play live against, I think it was Utrecht. If you can't even make a difference against Utrecht, what business do you have with playing for Juventus? With all due respect, but
let's end with what a lot of people asked us to talk about, and that's Bremer. Okay, I think earlier somebody said Bremer was at fault for all 3 goals. Some people said Bremer had a really bad day. Bremer was not good today. Kelly was better than Bremer. Let's take a look at the goals. One, there's the penalty. Incidental brush of the trailing hand for the penalty. The second one, Cambiaso passes it right to Atalanta. Atalanta, I forget the player, but he dishes it to Bellanova, who crosses. The cross beats Bremer and Scamacca to then get to Kalulu, who was trailing Suleimana. And then Pasalic gets on the ball kind of over to the left side of the goal, or the right side from Pasalic's point of view, to slot home the third goal. Now, I think that Bremer did not have the greatest game in the world, but I don't blame these goals on him at all. What is your take on his performance today, and to what extent do you blame him for these goals?
There are a couple of things we need to keep in mind, though. The first thing is he came back from 2 horrible injuries. I had the same injuries. I know what they feel like. I know what revalidation is like. I've been down that path. We thought, and I think we were touching wood when he got back, and we were thinking, maybe this is too soon. Gladly it wasn't, but it was pretty fast. And we were all counting on him because Bremer was a pillar for us. That being said, we said that a couple of episodes again, it's not the same Bremer we saw pre-injury. I don't think he'll ever be the same Bremer, because that injury for a football player is very hard to get past. Simple as that. Does it mean that he's going to be useless? No, he's still a very good defender. And Bremer also gets tired. He wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer today, but he's also suffering from a bit of fatigue.
You ship Rugani, and you have Gatti coming in. I mean, the fact that he started today was surprising to me, right?
Oh, but Spalletti doesn't rate Gatti at all.
Well, I know, but he played him anyways. You could have played Gatti over Bremer.
Yeah. I know what you mean, but if you have to ship out Rugani on Rugani's request, because I saw a lot of hate on Juventus because why we're selling Rugani when we renew him, it's not good. When we sell him, it's not good. It's never good. But Rugani wanted out. He wanted to play.
Yeah. No, I mean, we might have needed the center back, but people forget the human element, right, Frederic?
Yeah, exactly. And we saw what happened with Perin. Perin wanted to go to Genoa. We said, no, we can't find a backup keeper. Look at how he's playing. It affects you as a player. Perin is clearly somebody who doesn't want to be there anymore. So comparing them is like comparing apples and oranges in that respect. But Bremer is a very good defender. We will still be useful, but he's not the same defender as he was. So it would be very unfortunate for us to expect that of him. Be that as it may, like I said, he's still a pillar for us in defense. If you get Senesi and you get a 40 million clause, because Bremer still has that clause for, I think it's 45 million or something along those lines, and he wants to leave, I'll be the first to open the Prosecco, because then you've done a good deal. You have a very good center back with a lot of experience who's free. You get him 40 to 45 million for a player that's not going to be the same player you actually signed due to that injury.
You're dodging the question, though. You're dodging a lot of exposition, Frederic. Do you
it
blame
wasn't
him
his
for the
fault.
goals?
No. I blame Cambiaso more, especially for the second one, where he pre-assisted. I think it was the Ketelaar.
Whomever passed it to Bellanova.
Bellanova, yeah. So, and the third goal is, it's the end of the game. You lose that bit of fighting spirit in a sense. You get spaces that are left unattended. The ball goes between McKennie. No, I think it was Kelly's legs. Yeah, it even deflected a bit. So I'm not sure what Bremer could have done there. I blame.
Well, it was the build-up. It was the build-up through the middle, and then it dishes out wide to Pasalic, who then puts it through the legs. I don't blame Kelly for that either. I mean, if you blame anybody on that last one, you blame Kelly. But 2-0 in the 85th minute, where we have rando number 1 through 7 on the pitch.
It was redundant anyway. It's 2-0, 3-0 doesn't change.
I think that Bremer. I think there's a couple of things about Bremer. One, I don't blame him for any of the goals. technically, if he is at fault for the handball, I mean, these types of handballs happen to everybody. So it's like, yes, he's at fault. I'm not going to belabor the point. It's clear that his anticipation still isn't where it needs to be. And he's a step slow because of his injury. Because he's a step slow, his anticipation needs to be even better than it was to make up for the fact that it's going to take him an extra step to get there. And I think we're seeing a player in adjustment to figure out what this is. I don't think today or some of these other games where they haven't gone against us, like Cagliari or whatever. If I blame Bremer for anything today, it's his header off goal 2 minutes after the penalty. You put that on goal.
He's not fresh. He's tired.
No, I get it. But that's anything. That's the only thing I would blame him for, if anything.
Yeah,
It's like not his defensive work.
He was also, he was struggling a bit with Scamacca. Let's be real here. And Bremer is
Scamacca's got 5 inches on. I mean, I know I'm using American measurements here, but he's a bigger dude, much bigger.
Those are the type of duels Bremer usually excels at and likes. But you could see today that he was just a bit more tired than he was, and he played because we say Kalulu played a lot, but Bremer also did play a lot. So
since he came back from almost that injury,
I mean, it's gonna do him. I hope he doesn't get called up for the World Cup. I know he's 4th or 5th choice in the Brazilian squad. I hope he doesn't get called up. I hope he can use that off time to recuperate a bit, let his body rest a bit, see how his knee, reacts to a bit of rest, so we can have him fresh, or we can ship him out fresh for a hefty sum. It's one or the other. If you continue with Bremer next season, then you can expect him to ride out his contract. If you don't, and you get Senesi in, and Bremer says, I want a new experience, then it can backfire. But I don't think
somebody will take him. Somebody will take him. Like, I'm not worried about that. If we get Senesi.
Yeah, I just think we don't have to be too harsh on him. He's done miracles already this season.
Random story about Bremer is I was in Rio de Janeiro's airport, and they have a Brazilian national team store there. You got the big names on the wall, the jerseys on the wall, and they also have a press where you can get a blank when you say, we only have like 4 players in here. Tell us who you want. We'll press it for you. And I asked him, what number is Gleison Bremer? Because I didn't know, and I didn't want to look it up. They had no idea who I was talking about. No idea who I was talking about. Like, who? I'm like, center back, Juventus. And they're like, don't know, bro. And so I'm like, do I bother Googling it? Nah. But that was kind of representative of his stature with the Brazilian national team. So that goes to your post-injury. That goes to your point, Frederic, that maybe he doesn't get called up.
No, but he's also been a bit Europeanized in that sense. He's been playing here for a long time, doesn't have that link anymore to Brazil. He's also not one of the players that every chance that he gets, he jets off to Brazil. I mean, there's still that Brazilian feeling, but he's like...
You say that, though, but like, for how long was Alexandro and Danilo starting defenders on Brazil's national team? I mean, a long time. But they're both. I mean, they played for. Alexandro played at the during the Scudetto run for Juventus, and obviously Danilo played for a lot of big teams too. Higher stature overall than Bremer, but still Bremer's at Juventus. I mean, I don't know if you can say Europeanized is a valid excuse.
No, but there's a difference. Like, if you have a Dani Alves stopping at the national team or getting arrested or whatever, and you only have one wing back that is of decent quality in the sense that played Champions League finals, because that's the difference. Alexandro played Champions League finals, semifinals in the glory days, whereas Bremer came in full reconstruction and hasn't got the chance to be on that big stage yet. So it's kind of normal, I think.
All right, we're going to end with this. Antonio kind of touches on one is kind of what I wanted to end on. He says that this is the type of game that we just brush it off and we move on to Lazio. Don't worry about revenge versus Atalanta. Not really annoyed that we lost, just that the scoreline doesn't justify how the game went. So my question to you, Frederic, is, do you take Antonio's view that it's kind of a bummer, but in the grand scheme of things, you don't really care that we're out of the Coppa. You don't really care that that was 3-0 because it doesn't really justify how we played, and you're looking forward to focusing on the league and the Champions League. Or do you think this was, or do you want to stress that this was really bad?
I think it's gonna be challenging mentally because you get knocked out of a competition and you weren't expecting to get knocked out. You were expecting to put up a decent fight, which didn't happen, especially not in the scoreline way of seeing things. So it's gonna take some, pep talk for Spalletti to get the team back. In the grander scheme of things, you got more days off in April, where every competition gets decided. So that could be a positive thing. I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League or anything, but a bit of rest won't do these guys any harm, I think. So am I pissed? Yeah, because I want to see trophies get lifted up. Am I not going to sleep tonight? Hell no. So it is what it is. We tried, but I think the main takeaway from today is we need in the summer a striker.
My take is that I think Spalletti wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to move on. But he wanted to rest people. So he rests a couple people. Not enough to actually make meaningful rest for guys, maybe like Kalulu or Kelly or Locatelli or David. He says go for it, and then we get bit in the butt because the players, I think, were caught with one foot, wanting to win, but one foot understanding that they didn't really care. And so instead of going all in to say, you know what, we're going to rotate, that's it, best of luck, gents, and then we lose, great, or play the starters and generally go for the win. And I think that Spalletti did not manage this game well with that in mind, which kind of goes against us. We didn't get the rest we needed in some key players, which kind of bothers me. And then we still get lit up. And so for me, I'm going to move on, but I think this was a poorly managed game in light of the schedule coming up, where this game and potentially the Lazio game are the only games we have out of like the next 7 where you can rest people. And it was not what I would have done today. I wouldn't have hedged, because we know that the bench is weak. So you go half in, half out against an Atalanta team playing at home after a moral victory that they had, playing for 90 minutes down a man against Como. I don't want to be defeatist because I don't want to go into lose, but you have to think about the bigger picture. And I think that Spalletti hedged maybe too much. He should have either gone in or gone out with how he managed the squad.
Do we want to know what Spalletti says after the game, or are we not bothered anymore?
Well, give me the highlights, and then we'll end there.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because there's a lot of things, but he basically says, in money time, we were just not there. There are certain moments in the game where you have to grab the opportunities that are presented, and we didn't do that, but Atalanta did. So this is on us. Question was, do you think that the people who don't play that much have a lot to grow? And he said, well, we have a lot of defects in a way, but everybody needs to grow. I think the last 15 minutes were an embarrassment, he says, but we were also tired. We did whatever we thought we needed to do, but we didn't do that with overview. We played the game well, but if you have 4 or 5 chances and you don't pass the right ball, you don't pick the right guy out, you do everything that you shouldn't do, then you make it hard on yourself.
So he agrees with us. He agrees with us.
Yeah,
basically, that's everything we said.
Yeah. And then he said, what do you think about the penalty? Well, it's a penalty because it's a penalty. He touched it with his hand.
Yeah.
And then he says, but that's not football, is it? And he said, I really don't care. I have a different job. And
Mhm.
if the rules say that it's a penalty, it's a penalty. And that's why I always say to the players, it's better to stay out of your own box, because these things can happen, and I don't decide the regulations. But for me, it's anticipating on those regulations, and that's why I prefer to stay out of my own box.
Fair enough. Well, we'll end with Spalletti's words that it's just the unfortunate reality today. 75 minutes of playing pretty well and a story of missed or spoiled chances, which yields a misrepresentative 3-0 scoreline. With that, I have to let you go. Frederic, thank you for your time. Hello, Ryan. Welcome, but we are logging off. Thank you, Ryan, Large Boo, Mitch, and everybody else throughout the show who was participating. We appreciate all of you listening live, all of you listening after the fact across platforms. And if you have any questions, like to continue discussion, make comments on YouTube, on Spotify, and the like. We review those and we like responding to them as well. We appreciate all of you. And to everyone in chat, to everyone listening live, to you, Frederic, thank you. And until next time, as always, Forza Juve.